All right, we're talking about what it's like to date a Scorpio man. Now, if you use this video to attract a Scorpio man and he ends up ruining your life and sending you to therapy, as a lawyer, I do have to give a legal disclaimer that I cannot be held liable for that. But I hope this video is otherwise helpful and good luck. No, I'm mostly kidding about that first part. Dating a Scorpio is an incredible experience. An evolved Scorpio can truly be your knight in shining armor. They are what I would consider to be one of the most loyal signs of the Zodiac, right up there with Cancer. I think the first question to ask yourself before you even think about compatibility or attracting a Scorpio or what it's like once you're dating them is ask yourself, is the Scorpio male that you're interested in an evolved Scorpio or an unevolved Scorpio? Now, astrology TikTok and astrology social media would have you believe that this is a black and white either or thing. It's not, right? The most evolved Scorpio is not like a Buddha, right? There's always going to be those elements and every sign has its strengths and its flaws. What we mean by an evolved Scorpio is more just like a mature person, right? Have they come to terms a little bit with their own flaws, and have they figured out ways to deal with them and emotionally self-regulate in a way that makes them, I don't know, not a complete piece of shit? There's a little cheat code actually. If you're dating a Scorpio male or interested in one and he's like less than age 24, 23 and hasn't otherwise been through some like transcendent piece of like suffering that he's like grown from in his childhood, he's probably an unevolved piece of shit still. There's gonna need to be a few more heartbreaks and lessons learned and some real suffering for him before he really kind of makes that next leap and starts to become a little bit more self-aware and self-reflective. If you wanna be the person that goes on that journey with him, that's your funeral. I'll leave that to you. The thing you have to know about Scorpios, this is especially true for Scorpio males, is that they're incredibly sensitive, right? They have such a strong fear of rejection. They have a strong fear of the unknown, and they have a strong fear of things they can't control, which is like pretty much most of the stuff that happens in life. Like, it happens, it's gonna happen, it's in the future, you don't know what's gonna happen, you can't control it. That's something we all have to deal with. For Scorpio, they're just especially freaking neurotic about it and they like try to do things about it. What does that mean? Well, the negative traits of Scorpio are all sort of like poor coping mechanisms for dealing with that underlying fear and sensitivity to pain, right? That's actually a good point, is it's not just like a fear of the unknown, it's a fear of pain, right? And the unknown presents a possibility of experiencing pain. Anyway, so that's why you sometimes see the negative traits of a Scorpio being like a strong need for control or intense jealousy or game playing, right? And I'll get into more of these in a second. But these are all ways for them to kind of like protect themselves. They're ways for a scorpion. If you think about a scorpion, like they seem scary, but they can be stepped on really easily. So they need like these things to like protect themselves and sting. So a real unevolved Scorpio male, one is not going to be able to be upfront that they like you, or they're going to be a little bit hot and cold, or when they sense they're getting too close or something's not going right, they'll retreat back very rapidly. This is a male thing generally, you know, a male that has really intense emotions. We generally don't give males a lot of tools for expressing them or a lot of latitude for expressing them. We don't socialize males to do that. And so it's hard for males to really own that sensitivity, and it's especially hard for younger males to do it. So instead of just owning it and communicating their emotions, they play games, or they don't admit it, or they retreat before, right? They don't like being vulnerable, so they avoid it. So you'll see this as like, you know, oh, you took a little bit too long to like respond to a text. Like now they do it, and you'll be like, you know, what the hell's going on? Like, is everything okay? And they'll be like, oh yeah, like it's fine. And like they won't admit it, but like it's clear that something's bothering them. Classic like neurotic Scorpio trait. Also, you'll see Scorpios like low-key like detective playing. It's just like, oh, where are you going? Like, who are you doing that with? Like, oh, who are you texting? Like, oh, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you wearing? Like that is like, I think every Scorpio like experiences this, right? But an unevolved Scorpio, those traits, those kind of controlling, jealous traits become overpowering, right? And that person that's not able to recognize those as kind of toxic traits, let them kind of consume him. And so it's really important that one, you're with a Scorpio that's kind of moved past doing those kind of things, or if you're with a Scorpio that's like still working through some of that, like it's okay if they are. Like none of us are perfect. We're all on a journey. Like you have to set strong boundaries with them. Like don't let that behavior become normalized. You have to say like, no, this is not okay. I won't tolerate this. All zodiac signs have the potential to be abusive or narcissistic. I will say that like an abusive and narcissistic Scorpio, they'll really lean into that, where it's just like highly controlling, like highly regulated. They want to literally like control every aspect of you. And that's where like those traits have gotten completely out of whack. But it's such a mistake to apply that to all Scorpios, right? Because in the other direction, like someone that has owned that sensitivity and that ability to like love and to really like be unabashed and unafraid about, you know, being vulnerable, to like really devote yourself to someone, that's just such an incredible experience. And anyone who's been with like a loving, evolved Scorpio like knows that is just such like incredible ride or die energy, and it makes like some of the annoying things like more worth it. So what do I talk about when I mean like an evolved Scorpio? It doesn't mean that person like never experiences jealousy, or they don't sometimes like get all hot and bothered and offended by like something that may seem small to you. It's more that like one, they own it and they just communicate it, ideally like at a later time when they're not so consumed by the emotion of it, and they just say, hey, like this bothered me, you know, this triggered me, like I would like to talk about it. Or, you know, they experience jealousy and they can decide for themselves like, oh, is this something that is a me thing? It's just my own fears and insecurity, or like is it a relationship thing? And like they know how to make that distinction, and they can regulate, and they know, oh, either I should communicate this, or oh, I need to like freaking go for a run, or like work out, or like journal, or like do me to like unload and kind of release some of these like cathartic like negative emotions. An evolved Scorpio is going to be able to do that. Really like the distinction, and this is like doesn't apply to just Scorpios. It's just like, does the person have a growth mindset or like a fixed mindset? Like, do they say, oh, I'm this way, I'm jealous, like you do this, and like this is how it is? Or is the person like, oh, like I do experience jealousy and I know that's not great, and like, you know, sometimes we're gonna have to talk about it, and like I'm working on it. You know, you see the difference, right? Like it's much more tolerable to kind of deal with the latter, right? And so I think that, again, the thing to emphasize is like no one is perfect, but you want to see someone that's like working towards that. And the one thing about a Scorpio is that they have the ability to really change. Like some people say people don't change. Like Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. It's the planet of transformational change, of like intense destruction and power and complete catastrophe, which sounds bad, but sometimes that's complete catastrophe of like a current state of being in order to make room for a new, higher, more evolved state of being. So Scorpios do have that potential. Let's talk a little bit about like how to make a Scorpio happy in a relationship, or like how to attract them. One, like you kind of want to stand out from the crowd. Like don't do what other girls are doing. Like you want to be strong, you want to have a strong sense of opinion and style and justice, and like be passionate about something. Like a Scorpio doesn't want a yes person, or someone that's just gonna kind of like want to be a follower, or someone that's just gonna want to hang on their shoulder. They want someone that has like their own passions outside of the relationship. They may think they don't, but they do really want this. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's just like, are you passionate about it? Like bring it to the table and share it, and like don't drop it once you start dating them. Secondly, like recognize that Scorpio males do have this tendency towards sometimes jealousy or irrational fear. So it's not always great, but like don't do things that like stir that up when you don't have to. Like don't do white lies or even small lies if there's like not a reason for doing it. If there is a reason you're lying, like that's messed up. Like I don't know why you're doing that. But if it's just like a white lie or something like that, Scorpios can sometimes detect them. Like you think they don't, but they'll know. They really know what's going on, and they're gonna read more into it. So like if there's nothing to read into, don't give them things to read into. Consistency and follow through, you know, be consistent. Like if you make plans or you set intentions or you say you're gonna do something, like have integrity and like follow through on it. Even if maybe you don't want to, like Scorpio males like despise any kind of like flakiness or flight of fancy or like pitter pattering. Like they don't like it. Like they like people that are all in or they're all out. Like don't be indecisive, right? Like there's gonna be a natural point in the beginning of a relationship where you're still exploring, but like at a certain point, like you're in or you're out. Like don't play games. Don't do this kind of like hot and cold stuff. Scorpio male is not gonna like it. It's gonna make him more neurotic, and the relationship is just gonna get a little bit too topsy-turvy. You can't be afraid also of like taboo subjects or dark subject matter. Like a Scorpio male is gonna be able to talk about themes of like death or like grief, what happens after people die. They're gonna be able to talk about sex. Like they're gonna have a strong interest in having a good sex life. They might be kind of exploratory or intense and passionate in the bedroom, like in a completely healthy way. If that's something that's not like interesting or all that stuff kind of makes you feel uncomfortable, I don't know if like being with a Scorpio male is like really the right fit. Someone that just wants to kind of like bob on the surface all the time, not gonna work. Doesn't mean you have to be like down in the, you know, Titanic, like sinking wreckage like that deep where a Scorpio just pretty much lives and has set up shop. But you have to like be willing to like go down there a little bit, and you also have to respect the role that Scorpio plays in kind of being down there. Lastly, I will say like see his sensitivity as a gift. Like make space for him to be sensitive and make sure you're always responding and communicating in a way that frames it as a strength, right? Like a Scorpio male is so terrified of like being vulnerable and communicating their deepest, darkest emotions, but they have a need to in a relationship, and they need someone that sees that as consistent with the powerful person that they are. So let them cry sometimes. Sometimes they might need to cry, and be able to be present with it and like see it as a strength, because it really is a strength. Lastly, like tell them some secrets, share them some secrets. Like you have to be vulnerable with them. Like you have to want a stripped bare soul connection with a partner if you're dating a Scorpio. Like if that's not something you're interested in, I think maybe you move on to a different sign. Hopefully this is helpful, and thanks for watching.